Hello, and thanks for stopping by. When the coronation of King Charles III takes place on the 6th of May 2023, it will do so beamed before a worldwide television audience of many millions of people. So, no pressure then. The route the coronation ceremony is scheduled to take will be instantly recognisable to many of those watching, even if they've never visited London, for it will take place in the very heart of Westminster, starting at Buckingham Palace, then proceeding along the Mall, past Trafalgar Square, down Whitehall, and around Parliament Square, before finally arriving at Westminster Abbey. All of these buildings and locations are of course very famous, and worthy of videos in their own right. But having said that, there are various other points of interest along the route which are far less familiar, and which, in many cases, have a quirky tale or two to tell. In this video, I'd like to share some of these lesser known sites with you. So then, let's take a walk along the route and see what we can find. We begin outside Buckingham Palace, where the Queen Victoria Memorial, or as some Londoners jokingly call it, the wedding cake, holds pride of place. This memorial was first mooted in February 1901, just a few weeks after Queen Victoria's death, although it wasn't fully completed until 1924. As grand as it looks, this mighty monument has been bashed about a bit over the years. At one point even, the Queen's nose was knocked off, and if you look carefully, you can see the join where her new beak was stuck on. Quite a nose job, I think you'll agree. Just beyond Victoria's statue is the South Africa Gate, which many tourists miss as they're busy snapping photos of the palace. And that's a shame, because if you look up, you'll see some lovely carvings of a lioness, an ostrich, and my particular favourite, this rather cheeky looking monkey. Stretching for about half a mile, the Mall is one of London's most prestigious roads, which is why its tarmac is specially coloured to resemble a red carpet. This effect is achieved using a synthetic iron oxide pigment, which was originally developed at the Deanshanger Oxide Works, or Deanox. Deanshanger being a village between Milton Keynes and, rather appropriately, Buckingham. The works themselves were established by the Wershner family, who'd fled to England as refugees from Germany in the 1930s. All along the Mall, you'll find these distinctive lampposts, each of which are topped with a little ship. Collectively, these ships are known as Nelson's Fleet, for they represent the 27-strong flotilla commanded by Lord Horatio Nelson at the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805, and as such they can be considered an extension of Nelson's monument in nearby Trafalgar Square. Along the southern side of the Mall runs the northern perimeter of St James's Park, which really is one of the capital's most gorgeous green spaces, and if you take a walk through it, you'll see it teeming with all manner of bird species. The park does have a dark side though. In the early 18th century, for example, it was a favourite haunt of the Mohawk Gang, a mob of young, well-to-do men who delighted in spreading fear through their use of extreme violence. It was also in St James's Park, in the summer of 1734, that George Barrington, who'd formerly served as the governor of North Carolina, was found dead. He'd clearly been murdered, with the motive initially assumed to have been robbery. However, as Barrington was a notoriously obnoxious man, especially with regards to the manner in which he'd conducted himself in America, it's also been speculated that he may have been accosted by someone who held a deep-rooted grudge. Whatever the reason was, we'll never know, as George Barrington's killer was never identified. Linked to the north side of the Mall is Marlborough Road, and it was at this junction, on the evening of the 20th of March 1974, that a fellow named Ian Ball made an audacious attempt to kidnap Princess Anne by blockading her car with his Ford Escort. Unfortunately for Ball, who planned to ask for a £3 million ransom, which, according to him, he was going to donate to the NHS, his plan quickly descended into farce. Upon ordering Anne to come with him, the princess responded, not bloody likely, and with a number of onlookers getting involved, Ball opened fire, shooting several people, although fortunately nobody was killed. The attempted abduction was finally scuppered when, by sheer luck, a former East End boxer named Ron Russell happened to be passing by. Needless to say, Ron marched up to Ian Ball and promptly smacked him in the head, a brave action for which he received the George Medal. A short distance from Marlborough Road are these steps, which lead up to a peaceful little spot called Carlton Gardens. The steps are built around a memorial to Queen Elizabeth II's mother and father. And if you look closer, you'll find these bronze reliefs, which depict an array of scenes, including rescue work being carried out during the Blitz, and representations of the Queen Mother's passions and interests, including horse racing and corgis. It's worth taking a short detour up to Carlton Gardens themselves, because here you'll find another statue, this one being of Charles de Gaulle, for it was in this building opposite, during the Second World War, that he led Free France whilst in exile. A little further along the Mall, we have the Duke of York's column, the Duke of York in question being the fellow who famously marched 10,000 men up and down a hill in the nursery rhyme, as opposed to the more recent and, shall we say, controversial incarnation. The Duke of York's column was completed in 1834, making it 9 years older than a nearby, and far more famous, Nelson's column. In years gone by, the Duke of York's column was open to the public, meaning you could climb up to the top, although sadly that attraction came to an end many decades ago. When it first appeared, the height of the monument was subject to some ridicule, with many questioning why the Duke was perched so high up. This led to two humorous theories, the first being that it was intended to keep his statue safe from angry soldiers, because, and this is true, when the monument was being planned, every soldier in the British Army was ordered to forfeit a day's pay to go towards the cost of building it. The second theory claims the Duke is all the way up there so as to avoid his creditors, because when he died, he did so owing a considerable fortune. Just around the corner from the Duke of York column, on Carlton House Terrace, is one of London's most peculiar and well-hidden little sites, Giro's gravestone. Giro was a dog, the beloved pet of Leopold von Hosch, who was the German ambassador to Britain between 1932 and 1936, the German embassy once being located right beside this spot. Because of this connection, this little tombstone has sometimes been referred to as the Nazi Dog Memorial, which, as well as being tasteless, also happens to be grossly untrue. You see, Herr Hosch, seen here on the left, was a highly respected man who'd been appointed ambassador before Hitler came to power, and in the years following World War I, he'd done much to repair relations between Britain and Germany. When the Nazi Party seized power, Hosch was dismayed, and made no secret of voicing his distrust of certain party members. As such, his relationship with Hitler was a sour one, and it's believed the stress caused by his confrontations with the Führer contributed to his early death at the age of 55. A previously active and healthy man, he passed away inside the embassy in April 1936 after collapsing from a heart attack. His dog Giro, meanwhile, had died 2 years previously in 1934, and the inscription on his tablet roughly translates as, "A loyal companion." Despite being written in German, Giro's gravestone survived the war, perhaps thanks to a combination of the British love for dogs and the quiet respect for the man who'd spoken out against the Nazi regime. Towards the eastern end of the Mall, on the corner of Horse Guards Road, stands this structure, which, although covered in ivy, in an attempt to make it look less conspicuous, still looks as hard as nails, doesn't it? This is the Admiralty Citadel, which was constructed at the start of World War II as the main command centre for the Royal Navy. Apparently its foundations are 30 foot deep and its concrete roof is 20 foot thick. It also incorporated slits for machine guns, for in the event of an enemy land invasion, this bunker would have been one of the last points of defence. Despite its importance, Winston Churchill wasn't a fan of this building. He referred to the citadel as a vast monstrosity. In later years, the complex became known as HMS St Vincent. In front of the citadel is a more recent addition, the National Police Memorial, which was unveiled here in 2005. Part of the memorial contains this book, the pages of which bear the names of some 1,600 police officers. We now come to Admiralty Arch, which marks the point where the Mall meets Trafalgar Square. Completed in 1912, the arch was designed to serve both as a monument and as government offices. It's currently being transformed into a fancy hotel, and as such, a lot of building work is going on here at the moment, which makes it a little difficult to show you our next site, but I'll do my best. What we're looking for is in this arch, where if you look very closely, you'll spot something poking out. You've heard of the London Eye, right? Well, now meet the London Nose. Although several urban legends have developed around this funny little sculpture, such as claims that it was installed for troops on horseback to pat for good luck, the nose is in fact relatively recent. It was sneakily stuck here in 1997 by the artist Rick Buckley, and is one of several, the others of which can be sniffed out in various locations around Soho. Trafalgar Square is of course one of the world's most iconic landmarks, and millions of people pass through here every year. Many visitors, however, pay little attention to this building, which stands just across from Nelson's Column on the corner of Spring Gardens. This is Drummond's Bank, which was established in 1717 by Andrew Drummond, who, as this St Andrew's cross indicates, hailed from Scotland. On their way to and from Trafalgar Square, many people walk directly across this spot beside the bank, little realising that this patch has an intriguing history. For in 1961, Drummond's installed a drive-through bank at this exact spot, which in the days before cash points and electronic banking represented the very height of convenience. The Drummond's drive-through was certainly in operation throughout the entirety of the 1960s, although I'm not sure exactly when it closed. If you know, please do be sure to let me know in the comments. Situated between Drummond's Bank and Trafalgar Square is King Charles Island, named of course after the statue of King Charles I on horseback, which can be seen here. This statue was crafted by Hubert Le Sueur in the early 1630s, when Charles was still very much alive, making it London's oldest bronze statue. Following his defeat and execution in the wake of the English Civil War, more of which later, this statue was handed to a Holborn-based brazier named John Rivet, who was told to melt it down. Fortunately, John was a secret royalist, and rather than destroy the statue as ordered, he managed to hide it, and when Charles II restored the monarchy, he proudly presented it to the new king. The statue has stood at this spot ever since, and as well as appearing in the earliest known photograph taken of the city in 1839, it also marks the official centre of London, the point to which all distances from the city are measured. A fact that's marked by a plaque, located, rather unceremoniously, just beneath the horse's bottom. Moving down onto Whitehall, we come to the Trafalgar Theatre, once known as the Whitehall Theatre, which for a time was owned by Paul Raymond, the so-called King of Soho, who specialised in blue entertainment. As such, he oversaw a nude revue here in the late 1960s and early 70s, which was called Pyjama Tops. It must have been pretty popular, as it enjoyed a 5-year run. Nowadays, the theatre is a lot more family-friendly. Directly opposite the theatre is Craig's Court, London's forgotten square. I've made a whole video about this intriguing place, which I'll link below in case you haven't seen it. Further along is the Grand Banqueting House, which is the only surviving remnant of the once mighty Palace of Whitehall. The real-life Pocahontas attended a ball here in January 1617, and it was also at the Banqueting House, on the 30th of January 1649, that King Charles I was beheaded after stepping out of a window onto a specially built scaffold. This grim spot is now marked by a bust of Charles I, and the statue of him on horseback, which we saw earlier, is looking towards this location. Charles's execution took place at 2 p.m, and it's for this reason that the clock opposite, above Horse Guards Parade, is marked with a black spot beside the 2. Horse Guards Parade, by the way, marks the official entrance to Buckingham Palace, despite it being quite a walk away. And it's for this reason that the King's Life Guard, who come from the Household Cavalry Mounted Regiment, can be seen stationed here. Despite all their pomp and ceremony, it mustn't be forgotten that the young men who form the Life Guard are all fully trained soldiers. They, and their horses, are not to be messed with, and so if you wish to have your photo taken alongside them, do be sure to show some respect. Next up we have the Women of World War II Memorial, which stands opposite to the Ministry of Defence. This monument represents the 650,000 women who worked in many trades and roles during the war, including the Land Army, nursing, and the Women's Royal Naval Service. Interestingly, the font used on this memorial is the same as that that appeared on the covers of rationing books in the 1940s and 50s. A little further along stands the Cenotaph, Britain's Central War Memorial, which was first created following the devastation of World War I. There's a lot to say about the Cenotaph, and I am hoping to devote an entire video to it at some point. For now though, here's one interesting fact. When first constructed, it was temporary, and as such was made from wood. So effective and profound was the design though, it was quickly decided to make this more permanent structure out of Portland stone. On now to Parliament Square, which is dotted with statues, the most famous arguably being that of Sir Winston Churchill, which was cast at the Meridian Foundry in Peckham in 1973. Did you know though that this isn't the only example of this statue? It has replicas both in Prague and Canberra, along with a slightly modified version in New Orleans, where Churchill has been blessed with the cap and is shown given the V for Victory sign. On the flip side, Parliament Square has a replica statue too, that being this one of Abraham Lincoln, the original of which can be found in Chicago's Lincoln Park. Finally, we come to St Margaret's Church, which, despite being a beautiful place of worship, can tend to be overlooked, as it stands in the shadow of the mighty Westminster Abbey. St Margaret's was founded in the 12th century, and the current building dates from the 18th and 19th centuries. Samuel Pepys, John Milton, Winston Churchill, and many more were married here, and it was also at St Margaret's in 1759 that the freed slave, Oludo Akpiano, who played a key role in the abolitionist movement, was baptised. Unusually, the church tower bears a sundial, and around the corner there's another King Charles I link. This bust, which is glaring directly at a statue of his arch-enemy, Oliver Cromwell, who's standing within the grounds of the Houses of Parliament. There's one last quirky point of interest at St Margaret's. Here, see if you can spot it. Any luck? Yes, as you may have noticed, the window furthest to the left is fake. It's painted on. This has baffled me for quite a few years now, and I've yet to find out what the reason for the false window is. I have heard that the original window was destroyed in the war, and this was a cheap way of replacing it, but I've not had that confirmed. Do you know the answer? If so, please be sure to let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this walk along the Coronation route, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on the places we encountered. What was your favourite secret spot? And are there any other unusual sights or bits of trivia in this area that you'd like to share? If so, please be sure to let me know in the comments. Thank you so much to all of you who support my channel with your kind words, likes and shares. I couldn't do this without you. If you haven't yet subscribed to Rob's London, then I'd appreciate it very much if you could please consider doing so, as this, along with clicking the bell icon to receive notifications, will ensure that you don't miss out whenever I publish a new video. Plus of course it would be wonderful to have you along. If you're feeling extra generous, you can also support my work with a tip via either my Ko-fi account, which I'll link below, or the YouTube thanks button, which appears as a heart icon beneath the video. Any such financial donations are of course greatly appreciated, and they really do help go towards creating content. Anyway, on that note, thanks again for watching friends. Stay well and please be sure to stay tuned.